Awesome. Great. Well, now that we're talking about WrestleMania and WrestleMania season, I want to get into the business of WrestleMania. Just the concept, like I said, the culture, the impact, how it's evolved over the years. And let me start with a pretty more general question. What do you feel like makes WrestleMania more than just a wrestling show
It's a
to
spectacle.
you?
Man, took the word right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Literally took it
All
out
right,
of my mouth.
think of a different
Celebrities,
word.
celebrities, events,
Yeah, it's worldwide. It's
appearances.
It's a pop culture phenomenon. I think if it wasn't for the design of the original WrestleMania and kind of how it got ingrained into pop culture, the roots have been set deep as fuck into it. That
mhm.
when people just hear the name WrestleMania, it's like, oh, it's gonna have that show where there's a bunch of crazy stuff that happens, so celebrities and all this kind of stuff. So it gets a similar treatment to how people treat the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They call it the Super Bowl of wrestling, so because their tickets are up the wazoo, and celebrities do
There's
actually
Super
get
Bowl prices.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, they got Super Bowl prices now. I mean, I'm sure Super Bowl prices are so much higher, but
Mhm.
the what nosebleeds at WrestleMania now are like $500 just to get like high up seats. I mean, it's insane, and I hate it, but
They got these
apparently
overpriced meet and greets too, and
people have money for it. I mean, if it ever comes to Chicago, I'm definitely gonna go.
Same.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Pull out a loan.
Yeah, pull out a loan.
New credit card just for the ticket.
It's a good thing to have a good credit score.
they gotta build that one stadium first, though.
That's
in
true.
Arlington.
Or something with a dome if they're going to do it still in April. And I'll talk more about that later. But how has WrestleMania evolved into a global spectacle?
4-day extravaganza.
That's
And
true.
they're there the whole week, and they start their media that Monday Night Raw, basically leading into that Monday Night Raw, and go all the way.
Yeah,
Sometimes even the day after.
I mean, it's
yeah,
probably
and they also have like they have a whole season to it. Like
Right.
it's 3 months buildup, and the two other shows are connected to it. It all affects this specific event, and a lot of the times it does feel like a season finale of what they've been building towards this in the year. So yeah, global spectacle. It's when do you feel like it? When did WWE start treating WrestleMania as a major like business venture rather than just like a wrestling event? When do you feel like which WrestleMania do you feel like they were like, all right, now it's WrestleMania World. It's like you said, 4-day extravaganza. I mean, the Hall of Fame kind of came and went, but then there was like it's always Hall of Fame. Like they have their own convention basically. When did that start?
I want to say around Tyson. It might be earlier, but I feel like with Tyson, because with Tyson they're like doing media appearances a lot that whole week. I think that's when they started. Or if they didn't have it then they had that club in Times Square where they would hold like watch events and all that.
Yeah.
And they would do things for pay-per-views, and they do even bigger things for Mania.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just snowballed from there. Because I mean, I feel like so the WrestleMania I remember most out of early ones would probably be like 17,
Mm-hmm.
and that felt huge. Like even if you go back at it now, like it feels huge. Like there's performances.
Yeah, I mean, like that was always the core of like WrestleMania is like
A really
we always
long
have
ramp.
celebrities,
They find
long ramps,
Yeah.
elaborate stages, fireworks, a whole fireworks show that's probably
Right.
worth millions of dollars. But I think like for me, and I do think I guess we could interpret it differently just depending on how you see it. I think it didn't turn into a business venture like this whole thing until I'm gonna say like WrestleMania 20. When did they start doing like 24, 25 maybe? Like when they started
Stadiums?
going into stadiums. Okay, so I think 23, because I think the last arena WrestleMania was WrestleMania 22 in Allstate Arena, because then 23 was Ford Field, and then they just never looked back. So, like, from my perspective, I feel like they started treating it more like a big business instead of like a PLE, like a big show, when they started expanding into stadiums. So I think 23 and then going up. And then since then, I mean, like that whole like a week, like I said, the Hall of Fame and all that, like now the Hall of Fame is in every year. Before WrestleMania 20, I think it was before 20. The Hall of Fame was just kind of they did a little bit in the early 90s. They had like these dinner events or whatever, and then it just kind of disappeared for a while, and then it came back. But now it's like a staple every year. Someone gets inducted, speeches, the whole shebang, part of SmackDown, Raw, Weekend. So I feel like WrestleMania 23. So in terms of WrestleMania, like as an event, how do you feel like in it impacted the overall success and longevity of WWE?
I mean, that's the bread and butter, to be honest. I think without it,
Yeah.
it would have been just some carny shit. People would just kind of like would watch, but it would not be the like pop culture phenomenon that it's become, to be honest. It would be still territories potentially, or I guess maybe not, because he started doing all that legwork, but definitely it would not be as big. There's no way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know what that a future or what an alternate reality looks like without WrestleMania, but it just seems like it just made it so much more elevated, I guess, in terms of an art form and a spectacle. Because I do think that the involvement of like bands and celebrities making it this giant thing did elevate it from like you said, carnies and bingo halls and that kind of thing. Um, and to Vince's credit, it was his idea. Um, and that's what they say, that the legend is that he put all his money into the first one, and if it didn't work, they'd go bankrupt, and then it was a big success. But it was impactful, and it legitimately changed the course of like wrestling forever. And they just kept expanding and evolving WrestleMania. Now WrestleMania, I mean, like you said, it's the term is part of the lexicon. I mean, even like Patrick doesn't really watch it. Would sometimes just use WrestleMania like, oh, are you watching WrestleMania? No, it's Raw. It's SmackDown. You know
Everything's
what I mean?
a Nintendo.
Yeah, exactly. That's the equivalent.
Pokemon or Pikachu's.
Playing that Nintendo. No, it's a PlayStation.
When they start doing 2-night WrestleManias, what WrestleMania was that?
30s, late 30 something.
Mid late 30s.
That's when they probably start to really like just materialize WrestleMania to the extreme, like making it the convention, because now it's a 2-day event,
Right.
that kind of thing.
All the indie wrestling's there, or a good portion of it.
I mean,
All the
wrestling conventions, yeah, they all set up conventions during WrestleMania because it makes sense. You have people who are flying in from around the world who have probably a crap ton of money to go to this event. I mean, I do want to, like, at least once in my life actually fully enjoy like a whole WrestleMania week, like go to SmackDown, Raw, WrestleMania, WWE World, do the whole shebang. I mean, that sounds like probably like $10,000 or something.
When that toad hit, we do it 10 times over. Nah.
Yeah. All right.
Move over, green shirt guy.
Your lips to God's ears.
That's right.
Because that'd be cool. But So how much money do you think WWE typically generates from a single WrestleMania now? Bajillions? How much in
Definitely
total?
starts with
Depends how much they spent on it, to be honest.
yeah. I I think they don't talk about their gates because I think it just fucking clock everybody over the head. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, dude. It's
So
it's
what do you
Like
ridiculous.
concessions, think about merch.
Yeah.
Think
I mean,
about the
all
people
of
that
it.
are paying you to be around.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and the hit, yeah, the city, I mean, all of it. But do you
Hold on. Two nights
yeah,
started in COVID.
Really?
really
Yeah, that makes sense.
2020?
That
I thought it
makes
was like
sense.
right before.
No, I guess that makes sense
Nope.
because I don't really remember 2 night WrestleManias until it felt like it was like during COVID kind of a thing.
So you saw
Yeah.
2020, it said?
COVID Mania was the first two nighter.
Dang. What
You
do
probably
we?
just decided to do it then because they're not making the
All the
ends meet.
restrictions.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah, maybe
sense.
Yeah.
what do you think it was
Dude,
restrictions? They just want to split up the crowd and like the matches so they don't have everyone in
there was
one.
shelter in place already.
Mm,
It just happened.
gotcha.
Yeah, dude.
Interesting.
Fucking that was the weirdest mania to watch. I watched it all.
Man, I think I was, yeah, I mean, like I was passively watching, like reading wrestling news, but I I definitely like, especially like COVID when it was just like they were wrestling in the Thunderdome. I was not watching that. I was like, I can't, like, the biggest part for me, like the crowd really does add to the mystique and the energy of wrestling. And I think it really adds to the product. So yeah, just seeing them do it in a Thunderdome or whatever, or even before the Thunderdome, it was just
Yeah.
nobody,
Yeah, it
right?
was a straight empty performance center. It was just two people, a lamp, and the cameraman and Michael Cole.
Yeah, like I remember like that one of the big stories then was like, oh, look at like because during commercial break or whatever, like they'd be wrestling, and then I guess someone had a camera of like them just like hanging out in the ring because there was no audience. So like, who are you wrestling to? You're not wrestling to anybody. So when a commercial break happens, they would stop the rest of, they just hang out in the ring, and then when it resumes, they resume their match. And
Oh
someone
yeah.
recorded, I think it was like one of the women's matches, they were just like chilling on the corners of the ring. um,
Pull out their cell phones.
yeah, exactly, I think one of them did actually. um, so yeah, so I would never, I swear to God, this better not happen again in my lifetime. But yes, definitely would not want to go back to. That's interesting that it started 2 nights during COVID. Do you feel like they, in terms of attendance, and let's not say revenue, how about attendance? Do you feel like they stretch that number? Do you think they're kind of
Yeah, I think they round up.
Yeah, they
they
round
round
up
up a little bit? They include the popcorn vendor and the guy who's counting the tickets as people who attended WrestleMania, which I'm like, I guess technically you can say, hey, they were there. That's part of the
I
number. We're
mean,
breaking
they
records.
were there. Are they
They
not?
were there. You're
How'd
right.
you get your beer? How'd you get your popcorn,
Exactly. That's true.
huh? Who
So
filled the toilet paper?
that's like the best
Wasn't you?
spin right there. It's like, yeah, they were there. They technically were there. They weren't watching. They were watching you drink your beer, but they were in the
They were
building.
watching.
Yeah.
I'd be watching. Write
Do
me
you,
up. I don't care.
How do you feel like the introduction of the WWE network, and now it's Peacock, and then eventually it's going to be Netflix across the globe? How do you feel like it changed? Do you feel like it changed the financial model of WrestleMania? And what do you think about? I mean, because WrestleMania it was also the same price for a pay-per-view as other ones, right? Or was it a little more expensive? I
It's
don't
more
remember if it was
expensive.
$50 or more.
No, I remember paying the same, but I do remember like later on they started to charge a little bit more. But this was like early 2000s, so
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like I would bug my mom to always get a pay-per-view, and she said it was the same price for WrestleMania.
Yeah, I don't remember because we would all just like chip in. I'd ask
Oh,
my parents to give me a
for my
$5
stuff.
or a $10 or whatever, and we'd get Little Caesars or whatever the pizza was, and then we'd go to our friend Michael's house. I think we watched WrestleManias 23 through 25 at his house, and then 26 and 27 with our friend Lewis, I think. Um, and then they changed it to streaming at WrestleMania. I think 30 was the first time they had
Yep.
Peacock. Yeah, I remember
No, it's
that.
network.
Or network. Yeah, sorry.
$9.99, baby.
I was like they were like one of the first people to do the network, and WrestleMania I think was the first pay-per-view that they showed on there. But that was such a godsend for me because we didn't have cable at the time, I don't think. And this was just like another opportunity for me to watch wrestling on demand. And I was a big fan of documentaries. Like I read Bret Hart's book. I read I read a whole bunch of wrestling related books, and we had like a library of documentaries. I was so fascinated by it. So having the network there with all documentaries and specials and all that kind of stuff, that was a game changer. And their streaming of WrestleMania 30, I don't think it crashed at all. I think there might have been a slight hiccup, but it was good. And they were
it was pretty good for it.
So in terms of ticket prices, because we talked about nosebleeds being $500 and tickets prices are rising, do you feel like WrestleMania has become too expensive for the average fan to attend? And what do you think about that?
I mean, I'm guessing it has something to do with just overall production and it being a multi-night thing. There must be something that's just adding costs to it. It might be renting the building or something. But
you don't think they're just like, because we can?
Is it Ticketmaster that you buy through?
Well, it's Endeavor that makes the prices.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are part of yeah. And I mean UFC is pretty expensive.
Yeah, I mean they probably just took the UFC model and they're like, well, this is a rich man, or
I'm sure they'll figure it out because eventually they'll see that it's like this is a lot bigger than UFC, and asking for those prices don't like tear out to trying to sell this many seats. Like,
do you think WrestleMania is bigger than UFC shows?
I think so.
For sure. I think
name a UFC card that could fill up a stadium.
That's true. What about
what are you saying,
Super
Chris?
Bowl? Or Chris, Chris, what were you saying?
I forgot.
I was behind THC. I forgot. So what about like versus the Super Bowl? Do you feel like it's probably not bigger than the Super Bowl?
No, that's American football.
Yeah, that's its own thing.
Right.
And I think the Super Bowl is played around the world too. So,
and it's not like a pay-per-view format. It's just on a channel.
TV.
It's publicly
on regular TV.
Yeah,
on Tubi.
Because I was gonna say, I mean, like I guess commercials, like 5-minute commercials or 30 seconds on a Super Bowl commercial is like millions of dollars.
Right.
I'm assuming, in terms of, I guess for WWE, in terms of advertising, they're probably charging a lot now that they have the entire ring mat to sell, and every turnbuckle, and every
and the LEDs,
the LEDs, the countdown clock is like brought to you by, I don't know, Blue Chew
Wingstop.
Countdown. Yeah, Wingstop.
Strapping the rocket to it, man.
Yeah, strapping the rocket. Brought to you by Blue Chew. How do you feel like sponsorships and corporate partnerships influenced WrestleMania's presentation?
I'm sure there's some hefty contracts, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah.
Pay you a couple $1 million just to advertise it a couple times on your show.
Yeah.
Blue Chew.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did I get the answer? Do you guys feel like WrestleMania is too expensive now?
I'll say, yeah, it is. But I mean, it's also to whoever wants to pay that kind of money. I just think for the average person to be like, the nosebleeds are $500. I don't know.
Have you seen those
It's-
eggs?
Yeah, no, that's it, right? So,
I mean,
but,
like, I do feel I understand that it is a big spectacle,
it's a
and
huge
that I
investment.
don't know. I just wish it'd be so like nosebleeds for 500. Come on.
I mean, what
The-
do people
yeah.
pay for like the Stones and like other things like that? Like, I'm not saying that they're equivalent.
You're
but,
right. Yeah. Yeah. You're just
Like
you're just
Elton
making an
John,
objective
yeah.
comparison. Yeah, I agree. I just think it sucks.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Stadium
that,
shows are
you gotta pick and
expensive.
choose too. Like, what do you want to do now? Because WrestleMania is not one night, and it's also not like, and they got all these other events that like make you want to wish you can be part of those events too before the show. You know,
Right.
the
What
meet
if
and
2
greets,
nights is 800
was that during
or 750?
a 2K game that you got the Hulk Hogan ring mat thing? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. I was like, what are you talking about? Yes. Yeah, it was, I think it was 2K14.
With the
I don't know what
Legends
happened
thing?
to it actually. Yeah. I got WWE 2K14 and it was like I think was it a Hulk Hogan like special edition? I think it might have been.
Yeah.
And it was it WrestleMania? It might have been WrestleMania 30. But
Silver
yes.
Dome, brother.
So they were selling like pieces of the ring. So you get like a very tiny square of the ring where Hulk Hogan was standing
Spit
and
on the
having a conversation.
ground.
Yeah, spit on the ground, and he signed it. I don't know where it went though. That's a good question. I don't think I threw it out.
Burned it.
Maybe I did after I read all the racist news stories. I was like, screw this guy, and I chucked it. But
Bonfire. Shit.
yeah, I gotta
Need some
see.
firewood.
Now you're gonna, yeah. Honestly, I do actually need more firewood. So there's
Come
one.
on over. I got a bunch.
Yeah.
Oh man.
There's just like a red bandana of smoke just in the fireplace, or like a handlebar mustache and glasses just show up in the fire.
Just
You got me, brother.
Luke looking at the pyre in Return of the Jedi.
With the Vader helmet and the barbecue pit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I got to look into that. But yeah, I have it somewhere. I think it was 2K14. So in terms of WWE's decision to host WrestleMania in stadiums every year, I mean that would make sense that it increased their profits tenfold or 20-fold. How do you feel like WrestleMania helped WWE cross over into mainstream pop culture?
Too damn much. You see these tickets?
yeah. I mean, they were always aiming for mainstream like
Right.
media, and they always was. Even WrestleMania 1 had like Mr. T, right? And
Cyndi Lauper.
Cyndi Lauper.
They
I think
showed
Muhammad Ali was there too. Like
Liberace.
Liberace, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they had the who's who and the whoever was popular in the 80s. I mean, that was a big deal. And I do think it was that kind of like snowball effect that just kept going into other WrestleManias. Now, I will say I do think there might have been certain lull periods during that time too. Like there was a big spectacle, but like I don't know if you look at WrestleMania 9 or 8 or 11 or whatever, like what I feel like it varied in terms of spectacle and you know intrigue as a pop culture phenomenon. I do think it then regained its like resurgence in terms of like quality and intrigue with the Mike Tyson WrestleMania. It was 14, right?
Yeah, then 15 and 16 were kind of small, but 17 was, I think, at least 70,000.
Yeah.
Close to it. 19 was the same
the
way.
quality was
18.
really damn good too, for the most
Right.
part. And that was almost on a consistent basis from every WrestleMania forward. There's some that obviously had like some stinkers. Like I felt like WrestleMania 27 didn't have the greatest match card. I mean, you had like uh, Jerry Lawler versus Michael Cole. Wasn't that what the match was? And The Miz main eventing versus John Cena, and then I think Del Rio had a match. I mean, it wasn't that great. The whole thing was that The Rock came back and he was hosting WrestleMania and built up to next year's WrestleMania with John Cena. But regardless, like that was still in a giant stadium, so it already reached this other level in terms of popularity. But yeah, I think WrestleMania helped WWE as a brand cross over into mainstream because of the celebrity connection. And I know people complain about it, and I've complained about certain celebrities who show up, but I understand the reasoning behind it because it is effective. It does make people talk. And if you use them well, like, I don't know, having Snooki in a tag team with Maria Menounos or whatever, I don't know.
Johnny Knoxville,
baby.
baby.
I feel like WWE doesn't do that kind of stuff anymore. Like it's
Well-
one thing having a celebrity kind of come over and like chill, but like getting him into a rival with a wrestler again, unless I'm completely oblivious to it recently happening, but like I don't know. I
Well-
feel like that era has been kind of like gone.
Well, they've have celebrities who are actually wanting to wrestle now with
yeah, at least
Bad
that.
Bunny.
Bunny, Logan
Yeah.
Paul.
Bad
But I mean,
Bunny.
like someone who doesn't wrestle and didn't even know
Yeah.
wrestling either. That's where I'm like, I feel like they're getting people who actually love the business too and being like passionate about it. So like that's cool. But I'm talking
I'm
about like
curious
that
to see if
equipment.
I'm curious to see if Triple H will ever do something like that, where he's like, let's get not Betty White because she's not alive anymore. Well, like getting someone who doesn't know how to wrestle well and involving them in a match. Do you think Triple H would put someone up to that?
I think the closest thing recently, now that I think about it, was probably Speed. I mean, he just took a spear, but he took it very well. But I mean,
Yeah.
like,
And he wasn't even
he's
in the
also athletic.
match.
No, he was. He filled in
Yeah.
for Tozawa.
Yeah,
Mm.
he filled in, did a backflip, got eliminated.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a match that was advertised, right? Like that was just
Yeah, it was just a random spot.
yeah, it wasn't like, oh, like we booked Snooki ahead of time. Like we're advertising Snooki in
Yeah,
a tag team
Yeah.
match.
I got you.
Yeah.
You're gonna have
So
Conor
that's kind of
McGregor
what-
do it.
Or oh my God, who was the other person? I mean, Logan Paul, Bad Bunny are two really good examples of celebrities that make sense to put in matches. I mean, Logan Paul's basically a full-time wrestler, well, part-time based on the amount of screen time he has. But yeah, he's basically part of the roster, and it makes sense.
And Travis Scott's going to be a wrestler, or not be a wrestler, but he's training to wrestle. He said.
Travis Scott.
Yeah.
Good for him. I'm trying to think. There was another person that I forgot. It was recent. Who was wrestling? It'll get back to me. But yeah, I think it's important to have celebrities in wrestling because I do think it allowed WWE as a company, and then just the art of pro wrestling, because WWE is kind of simultaneous with that for a lot of people who only know wrestling by that. Some people just watch WrestleMania and that's it, just because they're interested in the event. Like they don't look at the product week to week, but they still get the show because they enjoy it. And I do think having those mainstream like celebrities really add to that kind of intrigue too, and bands and all that stuff.
I'll say too, I think the celebrities that are kind of getting a little bit more involved with the business are also fans as well. So I think that's actually a big plus. Instead of getting entirely just getting people who are just popular, these are actually popular people, but they're also fans of the business, so they understand. So I think that's a much better
boom,
decision.
AJ, boom. Yeah.
Now I remember. Okay. The the Jackass guys, they had a match with Sami Zayn
Johnny
at
Knoxville.
WrestleMania
Maxwell.
38. Yeah. So, but I think that was still a Vince decision, right? Like that kind of match with the giant hand and the mouse trap. Like I think it was a great match. I think most people enjoyed it too, and Sami Zayn really made it work too. It just kind of sucked that was it the mouse trap or whatever it was, it just didn't like trigger or actually work. I don't know if they just retried it or whatever it was, but it wasn't. It just had that not that smooth finish, but it was a very enjoyable match. But I don't know. I don't know if Triple H would do like a whole match like that in the Triple H era. And I guess we want to consider the Triple H era as actually WrestleMania 40 going forward, because I still think that 39 Vince had some kind of involvement, like via Skype or phone call or whatever.
Satellite.
Yeah, via satellite. So that'll be interesting to see if Triple H does also do that for his WrestleManias going forward. Does he do giant gimmicky matches like that where he puts a wrestler up with the Jackass crew and then has everyone come out and do that, like an actual advertised match, not a spot. So, okay.
They announced one tomorrow.
Yeah, right. Watch. So, which WrestleMania moments you guys think had the biggest mainstream impact outside of wrestling? I think we touched on a couple.
I'd have to get it to Tyson.
The Tyson one, yeah. I mean, like I think he was in the twilight of his career, but he wasn't. Was he actively boxing still then? I think he was.
He had just started getting in trouble.
Yeah, I think it was a little controversial then, but I think that's what they wanted.
Got to give it to 45, baby. Donnie Trump.
Hair versus hair.
I mean, that was a pretty big build.
Yeah, that was.
It was, yeah. I think that it might still be one of the highest grossing WrestleManias, WrestleMania 23. Because
was the one with
I think because of that match specifically.
Oh yeah.
It was Bobby Lashley who was in Trump's corner, and then Umaga was in Vince McMahon's corner, I think.
Well, both of those guys had some shitty corner, man.
Yeah.
And then, like, do you remember when Trump like speared Vince or whatever, and then they started wailing on him?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And he came out with all the divas. That was wild.
Man.
Also, the buildup was crazy. Like, didn't they have like the Rosie O'Donnell impersonator eating cake? That was wild stuff. If you actually like
crazy.
watch that back. But
was Mayweather 23?
No, 24. See, that was another one. That was another one that was pretty big too. Mayweather versus Big Show. Which is actually a really good match too. Like Big Show put on a good match with Floyd Mayweather, and I think Mayweather actually did break his nose.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
And when did that feud start? What show was it? It wasn't at WrestleMania 24, obviously. Was it a Rumble? I don't remember, but it was like that. I think that's how it started.
I wasn't watching then.
But that was really, and then also they also had one of the best Undertaker matches with the streak with Edge. Like legit thought that Edge was gonna win. Like 3 count was like this freaking close.
Not that
it was crazy. That was good. So you're saying D Trump, huh?
D Trump. I mean,
so Tyson had just gotten his boxing license revoked when he showed up at Mania for Mania. And it was off the Holyfield fight.
Oh yeah. Didn't he also come back again in like the 2010s? Tyson?
Yeah, he did.
In some weird tag team.
I wasn't watching that.
Baddest man on the planet.
And what other WrestleMania moments do you feel like had the biggest mainstream impact outside of wrestling besides D Trump and Tyson? Any other one that comes to mind?
Snooki probably to some level.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably to some level.
They hit
Unfortunately.
our age group pretty hard. Like everybody in our age group knew.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
a whole bunch of people who watched the Jersey Shore in high school, so I'm sure
Jim
that
Tan Laundry.
GTL. Yeah, I'm trying to think something that had a big impact. I mean, Bad Bunny for sure. We already talked a little bit about him, but I think he had definitely a huge impact. Logan Paul, obviously. Um, I was trying to Schwarzenegger. Was Schwarzenegger at a WrestleMania? Or
Was
was he
that a
just at a
SmackDown?
SmackDown?
Where the Mickey Rourke stuff, Chris Jericho, I think.
Oh yeah. That's another good one. That was when the wrestler came out. I think it already came out, and then they told him not to do the match because they thought it would ruin his chances to win an Oscar. I don't think he won an Oscar, but I think he won a Golden Globe though. But that was a big one at the time for sure. Because Mickey Rourke wanted to do it, but then his agents were like, "No, don't do it." I think another big one. I mean, The Rock coming back, I think was like, especially being that big of a movie star. Like we know him as a wrestler, but when he came back as a movie star, I think that added another like layer of audience interest because some people do just know him from movies, which is wild to think about. But oh, it's the guy from Walking
Tooth
Tall,
Fairy.
Tooth Fairy, yeah, Jumanji. What else? What other one is there? Well,
Fast and
Fast and
Furious.
Furious. Yeah, I mean, like
Scorpion.
Scorpion King. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people might just know him from those movies, and they're like, "Hey, look, he's wrestling. That's crazy." Especially like think about kids who were born after 2001. I mean, anyone now who's teenagers, 20s, like this guy is actor first, wrestler second.
Right?
Mhm.
It's the guy who sells Under Armour.
Papa Tui.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. Um, How, okay, so we can wind down here, but I guess I'm curious in terms of like WrestleMania and city bidding, tourism impact. It's now a big economic driver for cities who host WrestleMania. What do you feel like so I still don't know this, and maybe you guys can help me or we can speculate. What factors go into a city securing WrestleMania?
Permits, space.
Yeah, definitely
'Cause-
space and permits.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like Chicago's a big city, but we haven't had one since WrestleMania 22.
Yeah.
But it's not like we can't host WrestleMania. I mean, like
Well-
we have pretty good transportation, or
We have the best out of any place they try to go.
yeah, I mean O'Hare Airport connects really well. They could like all the hotels and all those things stay there. You could have Raw and SmackDown in
Allstate.
Allstate.
Yeah, Allstate.
Yeah, and then I mean, I think is it the weather? Like it can't be the weather because they hosted in Philadelphia WrestleMania 40 and it was cold as shit, but they still did it.
But I think it's the attendance. It's more of that because they can make
Yeah.
a lot more money just going somewhere else. Because the Allstate, even though it's still considered like small versus those gigantic stadiums they go to.
Oh, do you mean
what
like
about
Soldier Field?
yeah? But what about Soldier Field? I was just saying that. Yeah, I
I
don't know.
think Soldier Field isn't
With the
big
giant
enough for
lamp.
them. Yeah, I think
Maybe.
Soldier Field isn't big enough for them. I think that's the problem. But
Not
you
big
can just,
enough,
You can
yeah.
do 2 nights and just say we had 124,000 or whatever it is, because I think Soldier Field hosts like 65,
61.
61,000. So I mean that's nothing to complain at. But I mean there are wrestling like football fields that hold like 80,000 people, and I feel like
Yeah.
they want to go ones that have that kind of seating. But
They're supposed to build one here. I have no idea when though.
I think
In
that
Arlington
that's
Heights.
the biggest issue for WrestleMania. I mean, just think about like the placement of the football stadium downtown, just the way that it's placed in terms of parking and stuff. That sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, that's how that did it. Right?
If you do that. But I mean, I don't know. Like there are so many like big artists your Beyonce's. I mean, all Taylor Swift. They do Soldier Field. Like they sell out, and it's okay. Like the logistics work out for them. So I don't know if you can host a Taylor Swift concert for 2 nights. You can probably
Taylor's got to
do
think bigger.
WrestleMania. That's true, but Chicago. I mean, like, come on, Chicago is a big wrestling city. We gotta give us. Well, did they already know? They said 42 was New Orleans again. Is that what it was?
Let's see.
So, see, like, why do you think like places like New Orleans get like 5 in the past 10 or 15 years? Do you think it's the weather? Like, because I feel like a lot of it's New Orleans, just warmer places, which I guess makes sense. But
Vegas.
Well,
Yeah, because
the Caesars Superdome.
Yeah.
The Caesars Superdome could hold 83, and where they're at this year could hold 72.
Yeah.
So we probably just got to crack
extra
into
10,000, I guess. Really does it?
crack into those 70s.
It adds up. It adds up, I guess.
Do you feel like we'll get an international WrestleMania in the future?
Yeah. Inevitable.
Yeah.
Wembley.
See, I feel like it's got to be. Yeah, they got to do one at Wembley. And I know that they say they don't view AEW as competition, but I know they're petty, for sure. Especially like, was it you, David, who shared like there were certain events where they were also scheduling wrestling events at the same time as certain AEW shows?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they just do it because they like to be petty.
Well,
so
like another thing too is just like there's so much wrestling out there that sells whenever they're already in town, because think about how much easier it is to travel in Europe than it is in the United States.
Correct. Yeah.
Train.
I mean, you have like a whole continent that you can travel across.
Right.
And so many different countries who can come together.
Yeah, like my sister.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of Americans who will fly out to London to see it too.
Right, my sister went from like the Netherlands to Italy for like $8.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to watch a WrestleMania at like 2 p.m. in the afternoon. That's fine. Saturday, 2 p.m. Got my lunch, some coffee or whatever. Why not? I mean, we do it for like things like the Olympics and all that kind of stuff. A lot of it happens during the day because depending on what city's hosting internationally, you're watching it in the morning. And they're already basically doing it, like they're already evolving their product now. Before, when they were recording events like in London, for example, we would just watch a pre-tape show, and now they're like, all right, we're doing it live. You can watch it at 2 p.m. or not, that's your problem, but they're doing Raw at 2 p.m. tomorrow because it's in London. So I think that's the direction, and I don't know which WrestleMania it's going to be. It's probably going to be in the next 5 years. I'm almost positive that it's got to be London or something like that, somewhere in the UK. I feel like I know Cena kind of teased it that one time, but I don't think it was empty words. I do think they're actually looking into it. So I think that's interesting. So I think that does it. Yeah, that does it. Actually, you know what? Let me do one closing thought. In terms of the legacy of WrestleMania, like as a cultural phenomenon, where do you hope you see? How do you see WrestleMania evolving in the future? What do you hope changes going forward? Do you want a 3-day WrestleMania, 3 nights? Do you want to go back 1 night? What do you want to see out of the event in the future?
I'm okay with the 2, but it's still a lot. I mean, you got to dedicate your whole weekend basically if you're like diehard to like watch everything. I think it's fine, but I could see it doing a 3rd, to be honest.
The buy
If it
one
keeps
get
going.
one. Buy
Right.
one
I
get
want
one
cheaper
main
seats.
event.
That's what I want. I want cheaper tickets.
Yeah, I want business to go down so I could afford WrestleMania tickets.
I think they'll find a middle ground with tickets. Like if they see it doesn't work here, I'm sure they'll figure out how to tear it out better.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. I think they all sell out, so they're not going to think that. I feel too, though, because it's like, well, if they're selling out, then why are they going to do that? You know?
Last year's didn't sell out.
Oh, did? Oh, I thought they always do.
No, they've started to have to like fill out like at least like 2 to 5,000 seats, from what I was reading.
Oh damn, never mind.
Well, you think they would learn their lesson then in terms of pricing if they didn't sell out last year's WrestleMania? I mean, they
You would
had a
think,
lot of
yeah.
people there, but I guess they did have seats.
There you
I
go.
think
Now
that-
we have a chance of getting a WrestleMania here because
Because I don't think Cleveland
they'll
sold
sell
out
out.
either, like the SummerSlam, which is now also
Right,
going to be.
SummerSlam had an issue.
Yeah.
Damn.
See, give
I
us
did not know that
SummerSlam.
actually.
I think you can give Chicago a SummerSlam because summer in Chicago is really cool, and that
Yeah, they're
it was
gonna get
hot
the hottest,
WrestleMania.
most humid day in the world and split
Yeah.
everything.
We can't win. It's either too cold as shit or it's hot as hell.
95.
Yeah, you're gonna have
They're
people
gonna need
crying
water
at heat stroke.
stations.
Yeah,
Actually, my friend
it might
went
well be in
to.
Afghanistan.
I had a friend who went to. Was it 22 that was here last time? The last time they had
Yeah,
WrestleMania.
last time it was at Allstate Arena. Yeah.
Okay, so he went to the show. Like his sister surprised him with tickets on his birthday. They went. As soon as they got through the door, he said that the tickets were fake. And I was like, "Oh my god!" But
Oh,
somehow they were able to get tickets for it next door to Ticketmaster station that was across the way. I
So
was
they
like, "How
hit
did you
twice.
get tickets?" Still? Yeah, I couldn't believe how he even got them. I was like, "That."
That's called the John Cena main event.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm assuming they got like some third-party reseller.
I don't know. He said he had to rebuy them from the Ticketmaster station that was like outside, but like they somehow were available still.
Right.
And they got in, and he said, yeah, they were like super high up, but in the Allstate you can still kind of see the ring no matter where you're sitting, because the seats are elevated from the row behind. So, but no, I'm like, holy crap! Because when he told me they were fake, I'm like, okay, so you didn't get in there, right? He's like, no, we still got in somehow. I'm like, that's wow, okay.
So
It's extremely fortunate.
I think one thing that I would change, and I think maybe they're changing this year, is the way that the Hall of Fame goes on right after SmackDown. I think that's how they've been doing it for like the past 2 or 3 years.
Right.
I feel like it should probably be a different day because it used to be just like at a theater, you still had fans, but now it's like you have the whole arena, which is
Right.
cool. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it because sometimes I feel like people are. I don't know. I remember when they were doing like the Bull Nakano speech and stuff. The people weren't always. I don't know if they were rowdy or what, but yeah, it wasn't cool. Sometimes they just weren't. They weren't being nice. So I feel like the Hall of Fame should be on a different day and maybe just have it at a separate venue instead of wrapping it into SmackDown, because I also think it affects the wrestlers too. It's like, all right, we just did a wrestling match. Now I got to shower, put on a suit, do all that immediately after the show. And then the crowd is also probably tired because they just had a 2-3 hour show. Now you have 3 hours of speeches. So I feel like that affects a lot. So I think going forward in the future, the Hall of Fame should be separate. And that's also still one of my favorite things. I always enjoy seeing wrestlers get inducted and then telling stories. So
Luger.
that should be cool. And what you I think you brought it up, David. One thing that they're changing this year is that they're now inducting matches into the Hall of Fame during WrestleMania week, which I think is interesting. But someone also said, and I agree, that means Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and they have like 6 more rings or something, because I feel like a lot of WrestleMania matches
Michael Jordan
were them, like involved them,
Maybe they won't get a ring. Maybe they get like a friendship bracelet or something.
plaque or
pieces of Exodia.
Right.
Yeah.
And you get 5, you get a ring.
Pieces of Hulk Hogan's ring that he stood on.
You got me, brother.
Yeah. Anything else that you guys would change before we wrap it up for the future WrestleManias?
Find a damn location in Chicago.
Yeah.
Exactly. Give us
Or maybe
one,
have like
damn it.
I don't know, maybe it's kind of dumb, but like maybe have like a city, like, I don't know, like do a vote or something like that, to where like whichever city can like conduct more votes for them to bring it to their city, we kind of thing, or some kind of challenge to be like, oh, help the fans decide where they want to go, or
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, Indianapolis is going to have one, but it's not next year. I'm assuming it's going to be in 2 years then, right? Or something like that.
Soon.
So, I mean, I guess that's their way of compromising. They're like, well, Chicago's right there. So it's basically a WrestleMania in Chicago.
I'll
But I'm
go.
going to say it's not the same thing.
It's not.
It's not that bad of a drive either. I've done it.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Because, like, we visit our friends, East and CJ, who are at Chris's place right now, I think. Or did they leave?
They might have left.
Okay. But, yeah, like, it's, what, a 3 hour, I guess, drive? It's not terrible
No.
to Indianapolis.
And that time change.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I hate is like, all right, you're going 3 hours and then you're also pushing forward another hour, which sucks. But then when you get back, you get an hour back. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we all agree that one thing we want to change in the future is for Chicago to have another WrestleMania. But that's a wrap for this episode of the Chi-Town Shoot podcast. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, rate us, and leave your feedback. Tune in next time for more Wrestling Madness. Until then, keep marking out.